So, your app is a massive hit. Users are flooding in. Things are blowing up. In a good way. But with all that success comes a pretty terrifying question. Can your tech actually handle it? Today, we're jumping right into that. We're talking about how you scale a database.
Just picture it. You go to bed with 100 users and you wake up to find you have 1 million. I mean, that's the dream, right? But for your database, that dream can turn into a total nightmare really fast.
Because think about it. Every single one of those million users is sending requests, they're creating data, and they're putting this insane amount of pressure on your system. So, the big question is, will your database just buckle and crash, or can it actually keep up with the demand?
This whole situation has a name. It's a success catastrophe. It's a fantastic problem to have, for sure, but it's still a problem. And this is exactly where the idea of scaling becomes, well, not just important, but absolutely critical for survival. So what even is database scaling? Let's keep it simple. It's just the process of getting your database ready to handle way more of everything. More data, more users, more activity, all while making sure your app stays fast and reliable. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to use an app that's slow and buggy.
Okay, so when you decide to scale, you immediately hit this fork in the road. It's a fundamental choice. Are you going to scale up or are you going to scale out? And believe me, this decision is going to shape your entire infrastructure. Let's break down these two paths. First, you've got vertical scaling, or scaling up. I like to think of this as turning your one server into a superhero. You give it a faster CPU, more RAM, more storage, you just beef it up. It's simple, you don't have to change much code, but it gets really expensive, and eventually you're going to hit a wall. There's only so big one server can get. On the flip side, you have horizontal scaling, or scaling out. This is totally different. Here, you're building an army of smaller servers to share the work. The potential for growth is practically infinite. The catch? It's a whole lot more complex to manage that army.
And inside that army of servers approach, there are two main tactics you'll hear about. The first is replication. This is where you create identical copies of your database on different servers. Its whole purpose is reliability. If one server goes down, another one is right there, ready to take over instantly. Then you have sharding, which is all about speed when you're dealing with massive scale. You literally break your database into smaller pieces, or shards, so when a query comes in, it only has to search through a tiny piece of the data instead of the whole giant thing.
But wait, scaling up or out aren't your only moves. Think of these next few strategies as your pro-level toolkit. These are the things you can use to really fine-tune your performance and squeeze every last drop of speed out of your setup.
So first up is caching. This is where you store your most popular data in super fast memory for almost instant access. Then you've got load balancing. This thing acts like a traffic cop, making sure incoming requests are spread out evenly across your servers so no single one gets totally swamped. Third is indexing, which is basically like the index at the back of a book. It helps the database find the exact data it's looking for way faster. And finally, archiving old data. This is just moving stuff you don't need anymore out of the main database to keep it small, lean, and super responsive. Now, caching can be a total game changer, probably one of the most powerful things you can do. By keeping the stuff your users ask for all the time, like a profile page or a hot product, in a high-speed memory layer like Redis, you can serve up those requests almost instantly, without ever having to bother the main, slower database. It's just a huge win for performance. All right, this all sounds good in theory, right? But how does it actually play out in the real world? Well, let's take a look under the hood and see how the biggest tech companies on the planet handle this very problem. Let's start with Netflix. When you hit play, you expect your show to start now. The way they make that happen for millions of people all at once is with heavy-duty replication. They copy their entire video library to servers all around the world, so the show is physically closer to you. And on top of that, they use aggressive caching, making sure the most popular shows in your area are basically preloaded and ready to stream in a heartbeat. And then you have Amazon. Just think about their absolutely mind-boggling catalog of products and customer orders. To manage that sheer volume of data, they lean heavily on sharding. They split that giant data set into smaller, logical chunks. This is so important. It means when you search for a product, your request doesn't have to sift through the entire history of every order ever placed. That would take forever. Instead, it just has to look through one small, relevant shard. Twitter is a great example of what happens when you throw everything at the problem. They have to handle this real-time fire hose of information, and it's an extreme challenge. So they use aggressive caching to load popular timelines instantly, they use replication to make sure the service is always on, and they use sharding to manage the billions upon billions of tweets. It's really a masterclass in using the entire toolkit when your demand is just off the charts.
When you boil it all down, the difference between having a scaling strategy and not having one is pretty much the difference between success and failure. Without it, your app gets slow, it crashes, and you lose the very users that you worked so hard to get in the first place. With a solid strategy, you're ready for anything. And at the end of the day, this isn't just some technical thing to stop your servers from crashing. It's really a business strategy. Scaling properly means you've built a foundation that is ready and waiting for your app to explode. You're not just trying to survive, you're setting yourself up to win. So, that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Once you've solved your database problem and everything is running lightning fast, where's the next problem going to pop up? Because in any growing system, believe me, there is always a next bottleneck. And on that note, we're going to explore one of the best ways to fight those bottlenecks in our next explainer. We're going to do a deep dive into caching and show you how it might just be the easiest way to give your app a massive performance boost. Thanks so much for tuning in.